How you doing, everybody? Nick DiVirgilio here, and you're listening to Sonic Perspective.
Hey everyone, this is Scott Medina for Sonic Perspectives.
And this is Nick Matsoukas, down from South Africa, otherwise known as Prog Nick. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, we're on the phone today with Nick DiVirgilio. Are you there, Nick?
I am.
Coming to us from Sweetwater, right?
I am. Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Well, as many of you are familiar with Nick, I'm sure, but for a little catch-up for those who may not know everything he's done, well, we'll just touch briefly in on it. But, of course, he's a renowned drummer playing currently with Big Train and the Fringe. He's also drumming right now for Spock's Beard, even though formerly he's fronted that band as the main singer as well and songwriter. He also currently is drumming, vocalist and engineer at Sweetwater. And in the past has also played with Tears for Fears and Genesis and Sheryl Crow, Kevin Gilbert, Peter Gabriel, and of course he had that time he ran off to the circus, the Cirque du Soleil, so just an incredible amount of history that we've got. So we're going to delve into some of it today. So Nick, thanks again so much for being with us and getting to talk a little bit with everybody here.
My pleasure.
So I'm going to kick off, Nick, by offering you a well overdue congratulations, in my humble opinion anyway, for the Classic Rock Society Award that you won last year as Best Drummer. My thoughts as a super fan of your work is, well, it's about time. You won that award over people like Craig Blundell and Carl Palmer, Mike Portnoy, Alex Crumedy, all fantastic drummers. And I know music's not a competition, but I just wanted to offer you my personal congratulations because I really think that award was well overdue. Your feelings on awards, are they important? Was that recognition significant to you?
Very significant to me, yes, and thank you for the congratulations. I appreciate that. It's not a competition, of course not, but it's nice to be recognized and to be kind of put up in that sort of, rarefied air, so to speak, and I've never really won any of these kinds of things in my whole career before. So that's kind of cool too, I got to the Prog magazine readers poll. I got Best Drummer in that. And then the last 2 years running, I got the Classic Rock Society Best Drummer. And it all, it's amazing, but it's all because of the band that I'm in. And it's this group effort with Big Train really given me a great opportunity to, to improve as a player and stretch and be a part of a great team. So it's, I'm really happy I got those awards. I think it's great. I think it's cool for the band, and I'm very appreciative. And you're right. There's a lot of amazing drummers on those lists, man. It's a lot of great drummers these days. I mean, there always has been, but it's fun to know that after this long of my career, I could still, hold my own with the big boys. And I'm proud of that.
Wow.
Yeah, and so you should be. I just wanted to say to you that I've watched Spock's Beard with you and at other times with Jimmy all over the world. I've seen Big Train. I was at the King's Place concerts that you did. You're speaking about two of my personal favorite bands of all time there. I guess it's no coincidence that you're the drummer in, well, you were the drummer in both, and you are heavily involved in both. So I just wondered, could you comment on the experiential difference for you as a drummer particularly and as a composer in working with the two bands? I understand that there's a geographical perspective to this, but in terms of the personalities involved and the different types of music involved within the prog genre, is it different working with Spock's Beard to what it is working with Big Train?
Yes. I guess mainly the biggest difference is just personalities, working with a bunch of Brits as opposed to a bunch of Americans. There's a little bit of difference there. Spock's Beard has a ton of history, like a lot of backstory in my career, from the very beginning when I started the band with Neil and Alan and all the ups and downs and twists and turns that I went through with that band. and that's all good, that's part of the whole process. But there was a lot of stuff that went on throughout the career of Spock's Beard. With Big Big Train, I started recording for them in like 2007-ish, and this is going to sound a little strange, I think, but it's never been hard being in that band. And that's a huge thing. It's like there's been, we've had our little bit of differences and some drama, very small amounts. But the music just sort of like there's a freedom to the music. I don't know really how to explain it. There's just an ease to it all. And that's probably the biggest difference between the two. If that makes sense, it's more than just the recording of the actual parts and the music itself. There's the history behind it, and Big Big Train it's just always kind of fun and easygoing, which is kind of rare sometimes when you're in bands for many, many, many years.
Yeah, but it does make sense just of the different dynamics, like you said. You've got such history with Spock's Beard, starting that up from scratch, and everything that has gone on with that band over time, and Big Big Train just bringing you in now as the drummer. I can see how that would be a very different context, and I'm really glad for you to hear that it's so easeful and rewarding as well.
Yeah, and now now after the years, we've been together as this group for almost 10 years now.
Wow.
And now I'm getting more involved in other things and writing a little bit and singing some more, which is all great, but showing up and just being the drummer, and they were thankfully they were letting me just do my thing too and be creative as far as the drumming parts were concerned. But I had nothing else to worry about. They ran the band in a really great way, very generous people, and so I didn't have to. I just kind of showed up and played to some great music, and so it's quite nice actually.
But it's interesting when you were responding to Nick's question about the awards that you've been winning lately. You answered, well, it's really all because of this band, Big Big Train, and I find that really interesting because you've had a longer career with a band like Spock's, and you've played with so many other bands even recently. So for you to answer that way, is it because Big Big Train has a larger profile right now, you're being heard by more people than ever before, or is it something else?
Gosh, I don't really know. I mean, it's definitely an up-and-coming band, even though it's been around since the 90s.
Yeah.
But they're just having a thing right now. There's some popularity. Thankfully, progressive music is doing well. So in the grand scheme of the music business, there's people out there listening to progressive rock around the world, and the internet sure helps spread that style of music. And there's something there. So that's helping Big Big Train. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, I think I hope that answers your question. It's sort of like, yeah, they're just, they're having a good time of it right now.
Yeah.
And sure that helps,
Yeah, but they're not really, a very active live band. Does that work well into your schedule and your availability, or would you really like to be out there on the road more with them?
Yes, we definitely would like to be out there more on the road, and there's plans for the future too. I mean, it's sort of getting to the point now where we need to go play live more.
Yeah.
We were just making a bunch of records, and the way it's a really unique story about how Greg and Andy and just that team, David, have built this band up, and the popularity of the band without doing live. It's sort of like the polar opposite of how you have to normally build a band and build a fan base in this day and age. Mm-hmm. But it's working.
Well, absolutely.
But now definitely we have to go play live, and there's plans to really start getting out there and doing more in the future for sure.
Excellent.
Obviously, if you look at the band's Facebook fan page, which is called The Passenger, well, we call ourselves The Passengers. I mean, there's a constant demand for more live gigs, naturally, as there would be. But it's amazing to note when walking around Cruise to the Edge, for example, as both Scott and I did earlier this year, that a lot of people mention Big Big Train. I'm talking about Americans here, and say, "Wow, I'd love to see that band, man. When's that band going to come to America?" So I have no doubt in estimating that there is a demand.
There is, and it's good, and we're building up that anticipation. So when it does happen, well, which is good. We want to make a bang. It's sort of like what we've done with these gigs in England, the King's Place, and then the ones that we just did at Cadogan Hall. Yeah. Really building up an anticipation for the whole thing that will sort of, it'll be the launching point for the future.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that will definitely be quite the announcement when it happens, I've no doubt. Yeah. So a more general question here, Nick. You've played with so many amazing artists and bands over the past decades, both as a studio musician and out on tour. Is there one single artist who is the biggest thrill for you personally to play with?
That's a little hard to answer. Peter Gabriel was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And the Genesis. It's hard to say. It was all pretty amazing. I never in my entire life expected to walk into the farm, the Genesis recording studio, and hang out with Mike and Tony and make music together. Never in my life, wildest dreams, did I expect that to happen. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then hanging with Peter Gabriel and jamming and having dinner with him and all that kind of stuff. It was very surreal moments. So those were pretty sweet, but there's been other great ones too.
And we believe that you gave him a good hiding at ping pong.
Oh, jeez. I got my ass handed to me in ping pong.
Yeah.
Really? And I feel like I'm a pretty decent ping pong player. I've been playing my whole life. I love the game. I think it's great. But, boy, Peter and the guy that was cooking, the chef there, I don't know if it was Jerome or if it was somebody else at the time. They're like full ringers.
Yeah, well, they're playing backstage after every show, I'm sure. So
yeah.
well, I'm sure he wouldn't take you on the golf course. That's for sure.
There you go. I'll take him on there.
You're definitely a lot of people's go-to guy for sessions. You worked from Kersner to Mystery to Jordan Rudess, and you name it. But you also seem to be a lot of prog bands' go-to guy for live gigs as well. And we all got the great news yesterday that you're going to be playing with Frost, for example, on Cruise to the Edge.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's official or not, but it's all over the internet, I can tell you.
I can't wait. It's going to be great.
So that's going to be great. And really, that's the decider for me to go on Cruise to the Edge now, because we're talking about one of my other favorite bands there, Frost. I just love Jim Godfrey. I love John Mitchell. I think these guys are fantastic. Nathan's a great bass man. And, I was thinking about this. You're in two of my favorite bands. You have played live and are going to be playing live again with two of my other favorite bands, namely Karmakanic and Frost. And I know you're in the Fringe with Jonas Reinbold, and the Frost relationship seems to be maintaining. I wanted to ask you a question about your own particular contribution as a drummer to those bands. You weren't on the studio recordings. You didn't assist in writing the material. Jem is very dominant in Frost, and I know there's a whole host of composers in Karmakanic. But how much of a challenge was it to perform that stuff live? And having watched a lot of the YouTube clips of this, it seems to me that those bands don't ask you to emulate what happened in the studio or what their other drummers did at all, but they let you do NDV, from what I could see. Would that be accurate?
Yes, and I am very grateful for that. Because, man, some of the recording, it was like this too with Fate's Warning back in the day when I toured with them and did their little...
Right.
We did a little American thing and a European thing. I ended up doing a live DVD. I don't know. I think it's just a matter of, giving it a different flavor for a minute. I'm not the main drummer in the band. I'm just filling in. So it's probably maybe a little bit easier on the band side to kind of not be so specific because it's only like one show or a small amount of things. So maybe it's easier for them. And it's just a different flavor for a minute before they go back to the regular guy, or the regular player. I guess that could be something like that. But I've just been lucky, to be quite honest with you, where these bands have let me do my thing in the scope of, in the framework of the songs and the parts that are there. Not completely changing them totally so it's something different, but still in the framework of the song and the parts. But just, the feel might be a little bit different, or a drum fill here or there might be a little bit different. And so far, again, I've been very blessed and lucky that it's worked for these people that have hired me.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I guess that's a great compliment to you. Not only that they hired you, but that once you get onto that stage, they let you do you, and your fills are your fills, and within the arrangement, as you say.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to have fun, especially when I'm doing these fill-in things. It's all really about fun and having a good time, and just try to bring a little bit of a different vibe to the players and to the band that I'm filling in with. So there's no, I don't want it to be heavy at all. We want to go up there and just entertain and have a good time and shake hands when we're done and do it again in the future if possible.
Sure.
Nice.
Speaking of Jonas Reingold, if I can ask a follow-on question, I caught both the Fringe gigs on the last but one cruise to the edge, and I just absolutely loved it. I think it's such a great band. Any plans for the future on the Fringe?
Oh yeah, we got a lot of songs sitting in a folder now. Everybody's really busy, and it's she's so spread apart, that's the hardest thing. So yes, we want to definitely do something else, another record, play more live. I love playing with Jonas, man, and Randy for that matter. But bass players specifically, Jonas is one of the best bass players I've ever shared a stage with. He's so musical, it's just ridiculous. And he's got chops up the yin yang, and he's just amazing. So for a drummer, it's a beautiful thing to be on stage with him. So
Yeah.
To answer your question, yes, we have talked a bunch, and it's just a matter of time now.
Yeah, that we really look forward to that. And like on the debut album with the Fringe, you and Randy are sharing the lead vocal spots a bit, but it seems Randy takes more of the vocal spots. So I was wondering how the two of you divvy up who the main songwriter is and the singer for each song.
Well, Randy's one of those guys. He's supremely talented and incredibly musical, and he's sort of in that Neil Morris kind of way. He writes a ton of music,
Yeah,
all the time. He's got songs just falling out of him constantly. So, just when we were there, he just there was time considerations when we were doing the first record too, but and just everybody's workload and all kinds of stuff, and he had a bunch of tunes, and it was fine that he was singing. I mean, it just kind of worked out that way, really.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just kind of play it by ear and see how it goes in the future too. He's a great singer as well, so it's there's nothing wrong there at all. He can really give it up.
Yeah, yeah. And you guys were able to record that at Sweetwater, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that really comes in handy with this job that you've got at Sweetwater. And has that just been like a beautiful opportunity for you in many ways to have the bands occasionally come in? I know Spock's Beard's been in there too for their latest album. How much are you incorporating your different occupations here and combining them?
Well, I'm trying to, because Sweetwater's reach, especially in the States, not too much overseas, but it's their reach in social media and just the web in general is enormous because of the retail side of the company, and we're doing tons of, and the studio is part of that whole thing, and been trying for a long time to just build up different artists coming through, and then so it helps the studio get credibility and more reputation as a quality, world-class recording studio. It helps the bands out because they get a great product. And it's not just Spock's. I mean, all the people that come through, they get a really great product, and get Sweetwater's marketing side of the business to help, push the studio and the band out there to a bunch of people that might not, ever hear these names of these bands, especially, bands like Spock's and different things that are more progressive based and not so, in the mainstream. So yeah, it's been a really cool thing, man. And Eric Johnson's here today. We're doing a recording workshop with his band. So I mean, we got a lot of great players that are coming through here, and it's really expanding quite a bit. So it's helped bands like the Fringe, and hopefully helps Spock's a little bit. And I'm recording Big Trains, at least the drum tracks. I'm doing those here at Sweetwater too. So it's a good relationship at the moment.
Wow, that's
Well,
fantastic.
I can tell you that right here on the southern tip of Africa, with next stop the South Pole, the Sweetwater Minute is actually quite well known around here and well followed. I mean, the internet's an amazing thing, and
It is,
Sweetwater,
man. Yeah, it makes it a smaller world, and
exactly.
yeah.
So speaking of Sweetwater, something that happened there, which I'd like to ask you about, which just amazed me. It was so enjoyable for me. Was at Morsefest. I was sitting. I knew that Nick DiVigilio was the support act. I was sitting waiting to see what was going to happen. I was in the front row, and out came Unique. Now, how does one describe this? For those who don't know, it's Prog with Nick DiVigilio on the tiniest drum kit you've ever seen, with, am I right, 4 ukulele players, right?
5 if you count the bass player. He's playing a bass ukulele.
5.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, it was just one of the most unique, fun, entertaining experiences I've ever had. Naturally, I went straight out and bought the little EP in the corridor as soon as I could. And it's actually on in my car right now as we speak. It sounds great. It's amazing. It really is a cool act. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? I also gather that there's a South African connection there. Through Bakiti Kumalo, which is of some interest to me. Can you tell us how Unique came about and a little bit more about it?
At Sweetwater, through the studios, we try to do lots of fun projects together with the vendors, the creators of these musical instruments, all kinds of different things. So Kala is a manufacturer of ukuleles, and they were trying to, I think they were already being sold by Sweetwater, but I could be wrong. They were trying to build up their footprint here at Sweetwater, sell more ukuleles, right? So they got together with Mark in the studio. Mark Hornsby is our studio director here. And basically sort of came about, well, look, if Kala was saying, if we send you guys a bunch of ukuleles, what do you think you guys can do? Can you do something kind of fun in the studio with them, show them off, that kind of thing? Well, they ended up sending us 26 or so different styles of ukulele. I thought of ukulele as one thing. I didn't realize there was all these different sizes and tenors and sopranos and bass ukuleles and 6-string and this, that, and the other. So all kinds of stuff. So we got all these things in the room and we're just staring at them and going, what are we going to do with all of these? We had them all laid out on the ground. And Mark and I have done some other crazy experiments with progressive rock in the past. By just sort of changing up these tunes. So we decided, why don't we try and do some prog tunes on ukulele and see what happens? It was just a kind of a crazy idea. And the way Bakiti came in about it was we had a couple tunes, and he came in to do a session through Mark and for a couple other things. And what I think maybe was the bass that he was playing, the bass company he was endorsing, something like that. We had him play on a couple of tunes, and boy, he's amazing, man. He was so cool. The whole... we all knew him from You Can Call Me Out and Paul Simon and stuff, but what a player he is. He gives that sort of, it's just a unique feel, that sort of African thing that is just, I've never experienced in a person to person before, What a great player and a great feel and touch. And he had never really played that style of music. So it was a little bit of a challenge for him too. And he just did his normal thing, but he had not really ever played, tunes in 5 that much, and just little things like that. And it was a great little combination. So we did the first couple of tunes, and it sat there for a while, not really knowing what to do. And then a couple other guys here at Sweetwater decided, we can't just let it sit there. So we came up with a few more songs and went back in the studio and finished up the record. I know it's a long-winded answer, I'm sorry. But then Neil asked me if I wanted to be involved in his Morsefest and open up for him. And I was trying to think of what I could do. And I didn't want to just sit and play acoustic guitar, and I wanted to do something a little more exciting. And this project was sitting here ripe for a live thing. It was our excuse to really get the record done and do something with it. The timing was just perfect. And that's what we did. We had to get enough players to play all the parts because, John, our main uke player, had to arrange these songs for ukulele, which basically means taking keyboard parts and turning them into ukulele parts and all kinds, especially when doing a song like Roundabout, where he had to figure out all of the keyboard solos and everything like that, and figure out how to play it on ukuleles and then use it and then arrange it for the different styles of ukulele too. So there's kind of a lot that went into it. And then we needed to find enough players to fill in a band. And we had the two female singers, Kat and Carolyn. And it was and really it's just a fun band. That's the whole point, was it just to have a good time, really, because who else is going to do this kind of thing? We're not taking ourselves seriously. We're just having a good old time. And it shows off these tunes as some really cool, some really cool songwriting in these songs that we've picked. So.
Right. Who would have thought of King Crimson being played on a ukulele, right? And I can tell you, Scott and I were together at that Morse Fest, and the way you started Roundabout was just so brilliant by getting the crowd to hum that intro chord,
Yeah.
And then going to the guitar piece played on a ukulele. We had so much fun. I cannot tell you. It really was great.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fantastic. Exactly. I mean, frame by frame on ukuleles, it's just you didn't see that coming. Nick, I'd like to ask you about the balance between creative fulfillment and financial stability. There's such an abundance of talent in your recorded output that I could definitely see it having been possible over the years to have a popular breakthrough somewhere. Because. Whether it's a song like Spock's Beard's Shining Star that seems to have hit potential all over it, or like your cover of David Bearwald's Come What May. I mean, it's such a beautiful, beautiful track. Or your own pieces like It Don't Come Easy and Mary Jane Says, just seem to have, they could just break through. The material is right there. And so that makes me wonder, over the course of your career, how have you tempered any ambition for success that you might have with the realities of the challenges of breaking through to popular success? Has there been like frustrations along the way regarding that, or do you approach things more just as creativity for its own sake, not so much the need to make it?
Well, yeah. Well, I've always wanted to make it.
Yeah.
It'd be great. It'd be great to have that tune that lives on forever and makes that mailbox money. Believe me, in just reality, you choose this sort of life to try and make a living and raise a family and pay your bills with. It can be a super big challenge. And the decisions you make, really set you up for what comes later. So, I'm a pop rock guy at heart. I have that kind of, I like all kinds of music. So I tried, and I'm still trying to find that, I guess, commercial success. But all that being said, I'm super blessed that I've been able to even do what I do and raise a family with it and pay the bills and keep a roof over my head. It's a tough living,
Yeah.
And some people just get lucky, even though they might be prepared. They're in the right place at the right time. A lot of the good things that have happened in my career is because I was at the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a trip. It's like music. Trying to make a living in the music business and be a professional musician can be an emotional roller coaster. That's why I joined Cirque. I wasn't working really much at all. Nothing was really going on. Wasn't bringing in any money, and I needed something. And thank God above, Cirque came our way, and it was a killer thing for our family to do. And we were able to make some money and, get out of debt and all those sort of normal life things.
Yeah.
Who knows if Neil would have stayed in Spock's, if we would have sort of broken through, and that would have been the thing that sort of made us all make our livings. I mean, just, you never know. And I sort of just follow the big man upstairs plan and just keep going. And so far, so good. I've been blessed, and I have done a lot of really cool things. But it's a ride for sure. It's definitely a ride.
It is, and I'm so impressed with the choices that you've made, be it Cirque and in that context, or Sweetwater now. I mean, it's just beautiful the way that all these things come together. When you took that gig at Sweetwater, was that part of the equation for you, that like, okay, well, I can bring in some of the bands that I play with to record here and really leverage this?
Yeah, that was one of the reasons I was sort of brought in, is to be the house drummer and use the contacts that I've made over the years to try and help um, build the recording studio here.
Yeah.
The recording studio here at Sweetwater, it's been here the whole time. Our owner, Chuck, has started as a mobile recording business in a VW bus. So he's always had a love for recording studios, and the retail side of Sweetwater, selling the gear, has helped build a real world-class commercial recording facility. So I was to try and help build that a little bit. And we have a whole team, like little Muscle Shoals sort of vibe here going on, with a whole team of players and producers and all kinds of things. And it's built it up now from not being just a little sort of regional studio to now spreading our wings worldwide, really.
Very cool.
Nick, I wanted to ask you about a project that you did some years back now, which was Rewiring Genesis. I really loved that project. I mean, it was just so cool, to hear one of my favorite musicians reinterpreting one of the best albums of my youth. And it was an extraordinary production, really. No synthesizers, full horn section, proper strings, even a sitar, I think. And it must have been a fairly expensive project, but nonetheless a very successful one. I know you did that with Mark Hornsby, who's now at Sweetwater with you. Would you think about extending that project, perhaps, I don't know, let's think out of the box here, rewiring Yes, rewiring King Crimson, rewiring Rush, rewiring Led Zeppelin for that matter? Would that be something you'd think about?
Oh, we've already thought about all of that, for sure. It was a big. We did that record in 3 weeks, which was crazy. I don't know, Mark just. Well, I think I don't think he slept for 3 weeks straight. And that was another one of those things, sort of like the unique thing, where we just did one tune and ended up turned out so well. We go, man, what if we did the whole thing? Who does that? You know what I mean? So we thought about it for sure, and it's just, gosh, it's the matter of finding the time to do something like that. Especially at that level where there is a lot of production involved, and string arrangements and horn parts and this kind of, thankfully that record, The Lamb, is when you even though there's lots of crazy parts and lots of killer musicianship and all that stuff on that record, a lot of those songs break down to just like simple songwriting when you really get down to the core of it all. Some of it's quite simple and bluesy when you break it down. So it was neat to figure out and to see that from the internal parts of those tunes. What makes them up, and the chord progressions and stuff are sometimes really simple. Except for writing the scree, that's kind of insane. But a lot of them, it adapted easily to the way we arranged the songs.
Nice. Well, your connection with Spock's Beard has continued to stay alive throughout the years, and I see once again you're headed back to Neil Morse's annual festival, Morse Fest, this coming year for another evening of Spock's tunes with Ted and Neil all doing a singer-songwriter take on the Spock's years. Is that right?
Yes.
And I think you've been at Morse Fest now after this year probably as much or more than Mike Portnoy has been there. You're a regular figure there.
I know, man. Neil keeps asking. It's a great weekend, so I keep saying yes as long as he keeps asking.
And of course, you're drumming on the forthcoming Spock's Beard studio album that's coming up, and so I just wanted to touch base with you about anything that you can share at this point. That the album's a couple months out from being released, but anything that you'd care to share about what we can expect from that album and your involvement with the band in its current state.
Well, the involvement with me and the band right now is recording on the record, and that's about it. I can't tour at the moment with them, which is unfortunate, but they asked me to record the drums, and the rest would be taken care of, however it needs to be taken care of. So for now, it's just me playing drums. I'm singing one little bit on the record as well. There's some cool stuff on there, man. Some really great songs and playing. Rio really stepped up big on this particular record.
Oh.
I know he took a lot of the, the bull by the horns, so to speak, and really made this record happen. There's some really cool stuff. I think everybody who likes Spock's will dig it. And Ted brings a nice flavor to that band, a different vibe on certain things. He's a great guitar player too, so you have that double guitar element now with him and Al in the band. I think Spock's fans will dig this record. And for live, for them, I just don't know. For me personally, I don't know what I can do live for them right at the moment, just because of everything I got going on in the job and so all that stuff. But I think they'll power through and do something for sure.
Yeah. So did you find that your involvement was different? I mean, previously you were the front man for the band, and prior to that you were the drummer and composer and partial vocalist for the band. This time you were just the drummer, right? Did you have any part in the compositional process at all for this album?
No, just played what they gave me.
Okay, looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think you'll dig it.
Yeah, sounds like we definitely will. So it sounds like at this point, your connection with the band, like if they have some need, they come and ask you, and then you take it on a case-by-case basis and either say, yeah, I can do that, or no, not right now, and then they go a different route?
Yes, that's exactly, yeah.
So Prog...
Because, really, it boils down to I'm heavily committed to Big Big Train now after all this time, and want to see that thing through, take it as far as I can. And I also have this full-time gig here at Sweetwater, so I can only do so many things at once, and that's just where I'm at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, who knows? I mean, with a lot of with the opportunities that occur in Prog, I mean, it is a fairly incestuous environment. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Let's just take one example. I mean, I know that you wanted to do Snow for a long time, and the planets didn't align until a particular time. But then when it finally happened, it was very, very special. And I know for both Scott and myself, it was just an amazing experience to watch that finally come to fulfillment at Morsefest. I mean, in particular, your Harlem Night performance really, really blew us all away. Those one-off moments, I guess, are always going to be available to you. There'll always be time to get back on stage and guest or do a particular performance with the band if you happen to be in the right place at the right time.
Sure.
How do you feel about drum solos these days? Is it something that has had its day, or, hey, if John Bonham can do it, we can still do it today?
Yeah, drum solos are okay. They're and I'll say that about watching Buddy Rich do a solo for 45 minutes. There's only so much you can take from that kind of thing. And that's my own opinion. It's an art form in itself because, it can get boring really fast. As a drummer, I mean, I still study a lot these days. I'll get around to answering this question, I swear. So all of those things, I'm constantly online watching drummers do their thing, and to be able to pull off a drum solo and make it interesting the whole time for especially non-drummers is difficult. Mm-hmm. So when me and Jimmy, all the years we were in the band together, our drum solos, I think he would say the same thing. We wanted to keep them somewhat short and have as much fun as possible with it. Not take it too seriously, you know what I mean? Because progressive rock can be a very serious form of music. So it's nice to lighten it up for a few minutes during a 2-hour show or whatever. And, it's a drum solo. So we want to try and just mess with it a little bit. It kind of fits both of those kinds of things fit both of our personalities, I think, me and Jimmy.
I wanted to ask you about some of the more complex stuff that you play, Nick. Let's take, I don't know, Skeletons at the Feast or Summoned by Bells, or one of the more difficult drum parts that you've created. Do you think about it, maybe score it, make notes, or is it all just from feel? How do you go about the difficult stuff?
First, it's by feel, and then I sort of have to break it down and and take it from there. I definitely I try not to repeat myself too much, which is very difficult because you have your go-to things. Every player does that you do naturally. But I definitely try and just listen and feel out parts first and see where my gut takes me, and then dive into breaking it apart, especially if I can't figure out something, and I have to sort of score something or write something out. Depends. Skeletons was just sort of a jam. I remember getting the demo and playing along to it and just trying a bunch of different things without the guys around, and then I would present stuff that would at least give me the chance to make up my own thing, and then bring it. If for some reason they didn't like it, we could change it from there. But it's usually it starts with the feeling first, I think, for me. And a lot of it comes from just listening to all kinds and studying all kinds of different music, not just prog, for sure. I mean, I run the gamut of everything. I don't really care what it is. I'm still not a big country music fan. I still can't quite internalize all of that stuff.
I think you're in good company.
All the styles. I mean, no, I can get into like really poppy stuff, really simple singer-songwriter stuff. I've totally dive into, and folk music, and I grew up playing lots of funk and R&B and really getting deep into Motown and all those kinds of that. I really had a big passion for all that kind of stuff, along with playing, all my prog stuff as well. So I think that's kind of why I loved Phil Collins so much as a drummer, as a kid. He was my favorite drummer because he kind of he gave that special sauce to more intricate music. So it still felt groovy and had a pocket to it. Sometimes as a drummer, you got to just sit back and put it in the pocket and keep it in the pocket for the full 3 or 4 minutes. That's the hard part playing simple stuff, is that you have to keep it groovy, but the whole time. A lot of great drummers can do that. And so when I'm in those kinds of situations, if I want to keep my job and keep the gig, so to speak, you got to kind of, do that and keep it together the whole time. So it's a challenge in itself.
Scott mentioned earlier Mary Jane Says. Melodically, I just find that song to be so special. I just wondered whether there's any possibility of more singer-songwriter stuff coming out of you in the future. Are you planning on another EP perhaps? A follow-up to Pieces maybe? Will there be any work like that? Are you composing?
Yes, all of the above. For me now, I have lots of plans in my head. It's just now a matter of executing everything, especially since I'm in bands and I have a job at the moment and all of that kind of stuff. But the plans are to do a lot more solo stuff and get out there into the world a lot more. I'm at the point in my life, I'm still decently young age, and my kids now are adults and about to move on to do their thing. So there's a little bit of a freedom that's coming back into my life, and my wife's as well. That hopefully, if I play my cards right, will give me the opportunity to go out there and create more of my own thing, along with other stuff too, because I don't want to give up the bands that I'm in either. But my friend Joel Barrios is building me a new website, and with that, along with these other things, I hope to be releasing a lot more of my own stuff. I have a record that is just about, I'm working on like the last tune, demoing out the last song of it. I'm hoping to have a record out by the end of this year of my own.
Wow, that's fantastic
If everything kind of goes according to plan.
That was the big question, which is why I left it for last. And I'm so glad to hear that. I cannot tell you how excited I am to hear that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Really. And along those
I'm hoping to use the website when it's up and running as more of a platform to do more stuff, constantly. Get out on the web and whether it's YouTube videos or whatever, just to have more of a presence as time goes forward.
Fantastic. From that angle, even just in Spock's Beard, I'm curious. You were that time you were in the drummer's position, and then you came out front, and you've kind of seen Spock's Beard from both sides now. And do you have a preference after having that experience? Would you rather be the front man out there singing, doing the songwriting, or do you like being just in the drummer's seat and just having that be your one focus? Or do you like having a balance of both in your life?
Well, yeah, I'd love to have a balance of both in my life. That's why Big Big Train is so good, because I'm the drummer, singing a lot, but I'm the drummer, and I'm really happy to just be there, and I don't have a need to do anything else, because it's a real good, conglomeration of a lot of different voices and people. But I love being out front, man. I love singing. I love playing other instruments and stuff. So, yeah, I want to do both. I want to do it all if I can.
Yeah,
fantastic.
That's the line, right? In The River Is Wide. I want it all. I haven't got it yet.
Haven't got it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, sweet. Thanks so much for talking with us, Nick.
You're welcome.
Really nice to chat, catch up, and looking forward to all the activity on the horizon here. That sounds really exciting to close this up with.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Nick, I just wanted to say a personal thank you. It's just been wonderful watching you and following your career, and I'm so glad that there's more on the horizon for you. Yeah, as the lyric says, I want it all, haven't got it yet. But I have no doubt that the next few years are going to be huge for you and will all come your way.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for your music. Thank you for always, importantly, being such a great guide to your fans.
Wow.
Whether it's on the phone like this or up close and personal at Morsefest or on cruise or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also thank you for not becoming a pro golfer. Thank you for sticking with music. Congratulations on all your success, man.
Thanks, guys. All right, fellas.
Enjoy
Have a
your
good day.
You too.
Thanks, Nick. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
So thanks for listening, everybody. Again, this is Scott Medina for Sonic Perspectives, and we encourage you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and also feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can just follow the links that are at the bottom of the video. So let's close this out with the track from that quote we just had at the end of the interview from his excellent solo CD called Karma. This is Nick DiVirgilio with The River is Wide.
be